The penal station floated in the cold darkness of space like a metal tomb. It was a place where hope came to die. Thousands of prisoners lived inside its gray walls, packed together like animals, waiting for someone to pay their debts or for death to take them first. Cole had been here for 47 days. He counted each one by scratching a small line on the wall near his sleeping mat. The human kept his head down and his mouth shut. He had learned quickly that survival in this place meant becoming invisible. He was not a criminal. His only crime was flying his cargo ship through space when a patrol decided his papers were not good enough. They took his ship, his cargo, and his freedom. Now he waited in this prison while somewhere in the galaxy, bureaucrats decided his fate. The station held many species. They were the worst. They were tall reptilian creatures with scales like armor and claws that could tear through metal. They ran everything inside the prison. Food, water, medicine, protection. Everything had a price and they collected every payment. Sat in his corner of the common area, eating his thin soup and watching. He always watched. It was how he stayed alive. That was when he first saw them. The woman was tall, almost 7 feet, with blue skin that seemed to glow faintly in the harsh station lights. Silver markings ran along her temples like rivers on a map. She moved with the grace of someone who had once been important, but her clothes were torn and dirty like everyone else. She was the same species that ran this station, but something had brought her low. The child beside her was small and thin. She could not have been more than 8 or 9 years old by human standards, though new alien ages worked differently. She had the same blue skin as her mother, but her silver markings were lighter, barely visible. She held her mother's hand tightly and looked at everything with wide, frightened eyes. Other prisoners moved away from them, heard whispers, disgraced, fallen, debt carriers. The mother and daughter were outcasts even among outcasts. Looked away, it was not his business, he had enough problems. 3 days passed, watched the mother and daughter from a distance. He learned that the mother's name was. He did not know the child's name, but he noticed how always kept her close, always put herself between the girl and danger. On the 4th day, they came for them. There were 4 of them, led by a massive creature named. He was the biggest had ever seen, with a scar running across his snout and eyes that held no mercy. Ran the protection racket on this level of the station. Everyone paid him, or everyone suffered. Was close enough to hear when stopped in front of. "You owe me," they said. His voice was like rocks grinding together. 3 weeks of protection, no payment. Stood tall, though could see her hands shaking. "I have nothing, you know this. My accounts were frozen when I was brought here." "Not my problem." Eyes moved to the child. "But I can think of ways the little one can work off your debt. The lower levels always need workers." The lower levels had heard stories about what happened there. No child belonged in that place. No one did. "No," his voice was hard as stone. "You will not touch my daughter." Laughed, it was an ugly sound. "You think you have a choice." He raised his massive hand and brought it down across his face. The blow sent her crashing to the floor. The child screamed and fell to her knees beside her mother. "Take the girl," said to his companions. One of them reached for the child. She screamed again, trying to crawl away, but she was too small and too slow. Did not remember standing up. He did not remember walking forward. One moment he was in his corner, invisible and safe. The next moment he was standing between thee and the child. The common area went silent. Every prisoner stopped what they were doing and stared. Looked down at, the human barely reached his chest. He was soft, weak, made of fragile meat and thin bones. He was nothing. "What is this?" asked, genuine confusion in his voice. "Leave them alone." Was surprised his voice did not shake. Tilted his head, studying like a strange insect. "You want to die for strangers, human, for aliens who are not even your kind." Did not answer. He just stood there, his body blocking the path to the child. His confusion slowly turned to amusement. You want to take her place, is that it? You want to pay their debt with your pain. Swallowed. He knew what was coming. He knew it would be bad. But he also knew that if he stepped aside, that little girl would disappear into the lower levels, and he would have to live with that for whatever time he had left. Yeah, he said, I do. Smiled. It was the most terrible thing he'd ever seen. Then we will teach you what happens to fools on this station. The first blow came fast. His fist slammed into his stomach, lifting him off his feet. He crashed to the ground, all the air driven from his lungs. Before he could even try to breathe, a boot connected with his ribs. Then another fist. Then claws that opened his arm from elbow to wrist. Did not fight back. He could not. Fighting back would only make it worse. So he curled into a ball and protected his head while the beat him. Through the pain, he heard the child crying. He heard screaming at the to stop. He heard the other prisoners whispering, wondering why this stupid human was dying for strangers. The beating lasted a long time. When finally grew bored, he kicked one last time and stepped back. Remember this, they said. Next time we take the girl and the mother, and we take our time with both of them. Then they left. Lay on the cold metal floor, blood pooling beneath him. His whole body was fire and broken glass. He could not move. He could barely breathe. Footsteps approached. Through his swelling eyes saw standing over him. The child was behind her, tears streaming down her blue cheeks. Why? Asked. Her voice was cold, but something moved beneath it. Why would you do this? Tried to answer, but only blood came out. He is dying, the child whispered. Looked at the human bleeding on the floor. By every law of her people, she owed him nothing. He had inserted himself into her problems. His suffering was his own fault. But her daughter tugged at her sleeve. Mama, he is still breathing. We cannot leave him. Closed her eyes. When she opened them again, something had changed. Help me carry him, she said to her daughter. We will see if this foolish human survives the night. Together, they dragged back to their corner of the cell block. And for the first time in 47 days, Cole was not alone. Expected the human to die before morning. She had seen the damage that had done to his body. His ribs were broken. His arm was torn open. Blood had poured from his nose and mouth. No species she knew could survive such a beating. She cleaned his wounds anyway. It was what her daughter wanted and had learned long ago that she could not refuse anything. They used their water ration to wash away the blood, tore strips from her own clothing to wrap his wounds. It was not proper medicine, but it was all they had. Will he live? Asked, her small voice trembling. I do not know, answered honestly. Humans are fragile creatures. Their world is harsh, but their bodies are soft. Sat beside the unconscious human all night. She refused to sleep. When morning came, the human was still breathing. When afternoon came, his eyes opened. Watched in disbelief as tried to sit up. He failed, gasping in pain, but the fact that he was conscious at all seemed impossible. Water, he whispered through cracked lips. Ran to get him some. Remained where she was, staring at this strange creature. You should be dead, she said. Managed something that might have been a smile. Humans are stubborn. Over the next several days, witnessed something that challenged everything she understood about the universe. The human healed. Not quickly, not completely, but undeniably. His bruises, which should have lasted weeks, began to fade after just a few days. The cuts on his arm closed and started to scar. The swelling on his face went down. Other prisoners noticed too. They whispered among themselves, pointing at the human who should have been a corpse. Some called it witchcraft. Others called it impossible. A few began to look at with something like respect. How are you doing this? Finally asked one evening. Your injuries were fatal. I have seen warriors die from less. Was sitting up now, his back against the wall. He still moved slowly, and pain flickered across his face with every breath, but he was alive. Earth is not a gentle place, he said. Predators, diseases, harsh weather, other humans. We evolved to take damage and keep going. Our bodies want to survive. They just need time to remember how. Did not fully understand, but she found herself fascinated. Her people, though, were strong in many ways, but their bodies did not repair themselves like this. Once broken, they stayed broken without proper medical care. Had grown attached to the human. She brought him extra food, stealing small scraps from the meal line when no one was looking. She asked him endless questions about his world, about human children, about the things he had seen in his travels. Answered all of them. He told her about Earth's blue oceans and green forests. He told her about human games and human songs. He told her about snow, which could not imagine, and about dogs, which made her laugh for the first time since arriving at the station. Pretended not to listen to these conversations, but she heard every word. "Did you have children?" asked one day, "on your world?" Was quiet for a long moment. Saw something pass over his face, something heavy and sad. "I had a daughter," he said finally. "Her name was Emma." "Where is she now?" "She is gone." His voice was barely a whisper. "I could not protect her." Did not ask more questions. Instead, she leaned against the side and stayed there. The human put his arm around her and saw him close his eyes against tears that he did not want to fall. That night, after had fallen asleep, spoke to alone. "Your daughter," she said, "how did she die?" Stared at the ceiling. "An accident, a stupid, senseless accident. I was working on the other side of the planet. By the time I got home, she was already gone." "You blame yourself." "Every day." Was quiet. She understood this pain. Her own mate had died a year ago, leaving behind debts he had hidden from her. Those debts had cost her everything, her position, her home, her freedom. Now she and were trapped in this prison, and every day she blamed herself for not seeing the truth sooner. "Why did you help us?" she asked. "You did not know us, you owed us nothing." Turned to look at her. His eyes were tired and old, though his face was young. "Because I saw a child in danger," he said, "and this time I was close enough to do something about it." The words struck like a physical blow. She had spent so long being suspicious of everyone, trusting no one, that she had forgotten people could act from simple kindness. This human had nearly died for her daughter, and he expected nothing in return. Something shifted inside her, something she had thought was dead. "Thank you," she said. The words felt strange in her mouth, rusty from disuse. Nodded slowly. "Just rest, heal, we will figure out the rest later." But they did not have as much time as they thought. The next morning, one of his few remaining contacts approached her with urgent news. "Is planning something," the old whispered. "He does not like that the human survived. It makes him look weak. He is going to make an example of all three of you." "When?" asked, her blood running cold. "Soon, maybe tonight, maybe tomorrow, but soon." Hurried back to and told him what she had learned. She expected him to panic. She expected him to look for a place to hide or to distance himself from her and to save himself. Instead, he asked, "What do you know about the station's layout?" Blinked to what? "The layout, maintenance tunnels, guard rotations, power systems, anything you can remember." "Why do you want to know this?" Looked at her with eyes that had suddenly become very cold and very focused. "Because we are not going to sit here and wait to die. If wants to come for us, he is going to find out what happens when humans stop running." Stared at him. This was not the same man who had been beaten half to death a week ago. This was something else entirely, something dangerous. "You cannot fight them," she said. "They are too strong, too many." "I am not going to fight them," said. "I am going to outsmart them, and I am going to need your help." For the first time in months, felt something other than fear and despair. She felt the faint stirring of hope. "Tell me what you need," she said. And began to plan. Moved through the station like a ghost. He watched everything and said nothing. He memorized the paths the guards walked and the times they switched shifts. He learned which doors had broken locks and which corridors had blind spots where the cameras could not see. Provided what information she could. She had been a noble once, part of the ruling class that built stations like this one. She knew how systems worked, where the power lines ran, where the emergency protocols were stored. Together, they built a picture of the station in their minds. But they could not do this alone. They needed allies. The first came from an unexpected place. His name was an old engineer who had been thrown into the prison for speaking against corruption in the government. He was missing 2 fingers on his left hand, punishment for his crimes, but his mind was still sharp. Found him working in the waste recycling section, a job no one else wanted. "I know who you are," said when approached. "The human who stood up to most prisoners think you are insane." "Maybe I am," admitted, "but I need someone who understands the station's systems, emergency bulkheads, lighting controls, ventilation." Studied him for a long moment. "Why should I help you? What you are planning sounds like suicide." "Because runs everything here, and as long as he does, no one is safe. Not you, not anyone. Help me and maybe that changes." Thought about this. Then he smiled, revealing missing teeth. "I always did like insane plans," he said. "Tell me more." The second ally was a one-eyed merchant named. She was a member of a species did not recognize, small and covered in gray fur, with a single bright yellow eye in the center of her face. She traded in goods that moved through the station's black market, things the guards did not officially allow but secretly wanted. "I need supplies," told her. "Tools, distractions, things that can make noise and light." Named a price. It was everything had left, the few credits he had hidden when he arrived at the station. "That is too much," said when agreed without bargaining. "Not if it keeps safe," replied. The third ally found. One night, a shadow appeared beside him in the corridor, a tall figure wrapped in dark cloth with no visible face. "You do not remember me," the shadow said. Its voice was soft like wind through leaves. Tensed, ready to run or fight. 3 months ago," the shadow continued, "a human stopped a guard from beating a prisoner to death. The guard did not see the human trip him in the crowd, but the prisoner did. The prisoner was my nest sibling." Remembered, it had been a small thing, a moment of instinct he had barely thought about. "I owe you a debt," the shadow said. "When the time comes, call for me, I will answer." Before could ask for a name or a face, the shadow was gone. Days passed, trained his body, pushing himself to move despite the pain that still lingered. He was not fully healed and he might never be, but he did not have time to wait for perfect health. Noticed the changes in him. She was a smart child, smarter than she let most people see. "You are going to fight them," she said one afternoon. The hesitated. "What makes you say that?" "I see you watching. I see you planning. Mama thinks she is hiding it from me, but I know." Knelt down to look at her. "Are you scared?" Nodded. "Yes, but I was more scared before you came. At least now someone is trying." Put his hand on her shoulder. "I will not let them take you, I promise. Mama said you had a daughter once. She said you could not protect her." The words hit like a blow to the chest, but continued before he could respond. "Maybe that is why you can protect me, because you know what happens when you fail. You will not let it happen again." Stared at this small alien child who had seen too much and lost too much. She understood him better than most adults ever had. "You are very wise for someone so young," he said. Shrugged. "Mama says I talk too much. She says it will get me in trouble." "Talking can be a gift. Never let anyone take your voice from you." That night approached while slept. "Why are you doing this?" she asked. It was a question she had asked before, but this time it felt different, deeper. "I told you, your daughter reminded me of mine." "That is not the whole truth." Was quiet for a long moment. "No, it is not." He turned to face her. In the dim light, his blue skin seemed to glow softly. She was beautiful, he realized. Not in a human way, but in her own way. Strong and proud despite everything that had been taken from her. I spent 5 years running, said. After Emma died, I ran as far as I could. Different planets, different systems. I thought if I kept moving, the grief would not catch up with me. Did it work? No, it just made me tired and alone. He paused. When I saw Reach for, something inside me broke, or maybe it finally started to heal. I am not sure which. All I know is that I could not walk away. I would rather die than watch another child suffer when I could have done something. Was silent. When she finally spoke, her voice was different, softer than he had ever heard it. You are not what I expected humans to be. What did you expect? Weak, primitive, selfish. She paused. I was wrong. Smiled slightly. We are all those things sometimes, but we are also stubborn. We do not give up even when we should. Moved closer to him. My people have a word for someone who fights without hope of victory, someone who chooses death over surrender. What is the word? Aura. It means one who blazes, like a star burning its last light before it dies. That sounds like a compliment. It is the highest honor a warrior can receive, and I am giving it to you. Before could respond, appeared in the doorway. His face was grim. They are coming, he said. Tonight has gathered 12 of his best. They are moving now. Stood, his body screamed in protest, but he ignored it. Then we move now too, he said. Everyone knows their part. Nodded. Looked at, take to the safe point. No matter what happens, do not come back for me. His eyes flashed. I will not hide while you fight alone. You will not be hiding. You will be protecting your daughter. That is the most important job of all. Wanted to argue, he could see it in her face, but she knew he was right. Do not die, she said. That is an order. Nodded, I will do my best. Then he walked into the darkness to meet his enemies. The lights died first. Every corridor on the lower levels went dark at once, plunging the station into blackness. Emergency lights flickered on a moment later, casting everything in dim red shadows. And his 12 soldiers stopped moving. They had been walking in a tight formation, confident and unafraid. Now they stood in the red darkness, uncertain. What is this? One of the soldiers growled. Power failure, said, but his voice lacked conviction. Keep moving. The human and his pets are not far. They took 3 more steps before the first bulkhead slammed down behind them. The heavy metal door crashed into the floor, cutting off their retreat. Then another bulkhead dropped ahead of them, trapping them in a single section of corridor. Ambush, someone shouted. Roared orders, but his soldiers could not hear him over the sudden blaring of alarms. The sound was deafening, bouncing off the metal walls and filling the air with noise. Then the screaming started. In the darkness and chaos, shapes moved. At the back of the formation was pulled into the shadows. His scream was short. When the others turned to look, he was gone. Another soldier vanished, then another. The shadow creature had come, just as it promised. It moved through the darkness like a living nightmare, striking and disappearing before they could react. They swung their weapons at nothing, hitting only air. Finally managed to gather his remaining soldiers, 8 of them now, into a defensive circle. They stood back to back, weapons ready, waiting for the next attack. Show yourself, bellowed. Face me like a warrior. A voice came from the darkness. It was calm and steady, not the voice of a monster but of a man. You want to face me? Fine, let your soldiers go. This is between you and me. Laughed the human. You think I will fight you alone? You are nothing. I am the nothing that took down 4 of your best without them seeing my face. Imagine what I can do when you actually have to look at me. This was a lie, had not taken down anyone. That was the shadow creature, but did not know that, and his soldiers were scared. Leave, said to the soldiers. Drop your weapons and walk to the bulkhead. It will open for you. This is your only chance. They looked at each other. They were warriors, but they had just watched 4 of their brothers vanish into darkness. They had heard the screams. The human's voice was calm, which made him more frightening than if he had been screaming threats. "Anyone who leaves dies," warned them. But one soldier had already had enough. He dropped his blade and walked toward the bulkhead. As promised, it opened just long enough for him to pass through, then slammed shut again. 2 more soldiers followed, then another. When the chaos settled, only 3 of his most loyal warriors remained. "Cowards," snarled, "all of you, come human, face me properly." Stepped out of the shadows. He looked terrible. His wounds from the first beating had not fully healed. His face was bruised, his arm wrapped in bandages. He held a metal pipe in one hand, not much of a weapon against creatures with claws and armor like scales. Laughed when he saw him. "This is what we feared, this broken piece of meat." "Yes," said, "this is what you should fear." He attacked first. Knew he could not match the in strength, so he did not try. He was faster than they expected, darting between them, striking at knees and elbows, the joints where their scales were weakest. The pipe rang against flesh and bone. One soldier went down with a shattered knee. Another caught a blow to the throat that left him gasping, but took damage too. A claw raked across his back. A fist slammed into his ribs, and he felt something crack. He fell, rolled, and forced himself back up. Watched, letting his soldiers tire the human. When only he and one warrior remained, he stepped forward. "Enough games," said, "kill him." The last soldier charged, ducked under the swing, and drove his pipe into the soldier's stomach. The doubled over and brought the pipe down on the back of his skull. The soldier dropped and did not move. Now it was just the 2 of them. Was massive, nearly twice size. His claws were the length of knives. His teeth could crush bone. He looked at the human with a mixture of anger and something that might have been respect. "You fight well for a dead man," said. "Not dead yet." They circled each other in the red emergency light. Could feel blood running down his back. Every breath hurt, but he did not stop moving. Attacked with terrifying speed. His claws whistled through the air, missing by inches. The human danced backward, looking for an opening, but was too careful, too experienced. A claw caught shoulder, tearing through flesh. He cried out but kept moving. Another blow glanced off his arm. Another opened his thigh. He was slowing down. He knew it too. "What are you?" asked, genuine confusion in his voice. Any other creature would have stopped by now, would have begged, would have died. "Why do you keep fighting?" Swayed on his feet. Blood dripped from a dozen wounds. His vision was starting to blur. "Because that is what humans do," he said. "We endure, we adapt, we refuse to break." He threw the pipe, knocked it aside easily, but it was a distraction. Charged in behind it, driving his shoulder into his chest. It was like hitting a wall, but the impact staggered the backward. Grabbed one of his claws and twisted. He felt his own bones grinding, but he did not let go. He pulled the claw towards own body and pushed with everything he had left. His eyes went wide as his own claw sank into his chest. The fell to his knees. He stared at with something like awe. "Impossible," he whispered. "No," said, "just human." Collapsed and did not move again. Stood there for a moment, swaying. Then his legs gave out and he fell. He was barely conscious when he heard running footsteps. He felt hands on his face, gentle hands. "Stay awake." His voice. He tried to smile but was not sure if he succeeded. "I told you to stay away," he mumbled. "And I told you not to die." She was crying, he realized. He had never seen her cry before. "You do not get to give me orders, human." She pulled him close, holding him against her chest. Her skin was cool against his burning wounds. It felt nice. "I claim you," she whispered. The words were in her language, but somehow he understood them. "By the old laws, by blood and sacrifice, I claim you as mine. Do you understand?" Managed to open his eyes. "Is that good?" Yes, said, tears streaming down her face. It is the best thing. It means you are not alone anymore. It means I will not let you go. Okay, whispered, that sounds nice. Then darkness took him, but this time it felt warm instead of cold. Woke in a bed that was softer than anything he had felt in months. Clean sheets, warm blankets, the smell of medicine and filtered air. He was in a medical ward. Real doctors, not prisoners playing at healing. Was sitting beside his bed. She looked exhausted, with dark circles under her eyes, but she smiled when she saw him wake. How long? Asked. His voice was rough. 4 days. The doctors said you should have died at least 3 times. They kept using words like impossible and unprecedented. She paused. They also said humans are very strange creatures. Tried to laugh, but his ribs protested. What happened after? Told him everything. The chaos created had drawn attention from station authorities. Guards had found the aftermath of the battle, the unconscious soldiers, the dead, and a human who was more blood than flesh. An investigation had begun. What they discovered was worse than anyone expected. Had been running the station's corruption for years. He had officials on his payroll, guards in his pocket, and records of illegal deals that stretched across the sector. The investigation spread like fire, burning through layers of lies and greed. 12 station officials were arrested. The gang was broken and scattered. Prisoners who had been held illegally were released. Debts that had been manufactured to trap people were canceled, including debt. The records showed that my mate's debts were transferred to me illegally, she said. He never owed what they claimed. It was all a scheme to steal my family's resources. When he died, they saw their chance to take everything. You are free. We are free, and I and you looked at her hands. Your case was reviewed as well. The seizure of your ship was improper. The charges against you were false. You have been cleared of all crimes. Let this sink in. He was free. After all this time, all this pain, he could leave. But where would he go? He had no ship, no home, no family. The galaxy was vast and cold, and he had no one waiting for him anywhere in it. As if reading his thoughts, spoke again. There is something I must tell you, something I said when you were dying. I remember, said quietly, you claimed me. His cheeks darkened slightly, a sign of embarrassment among her people. In my culture, a claim is a sacred bond. It is made when someone saves your life or the life of your family. It binds the one claimed to the one claiming, but only if both accept. She met his eyes. You do not have to accept. The claim means nothing without your agreement. You can walk away. No one would blame you. Thought about this. He thought about the empty years behind him, the running, the grief, the loneliness. He thought about smile and strength. He thought about what it felt like to fight for something instead of running from everything. What happens if I accept? He asked. Then you are part of my family. My people would recognize you as mine. You would have a place, a home, a purpose. She paused. You would have us. The door opened before could respond. Came running in, her blue face bright with joy. You are awake. She climbed onto the bed without hesitation and wrapped her small arms around. I told Mama you would not die. I told her humans are too stubborn. Hugged her back, careful of his healing wounds. You were right, we are very stubborn. Looked up at him. Does this mean you are staying? Please say you are staying. Mama has been worried for days and she will not stop packing, and I think she really wants you to stay, but she is too proud to say it properly. His voice was sharp, but her eyes were soft. Looked at the child in his arms. Then he looked at her mother, standing there with hope and fear written across her face. He had lost his family once. The pain of it had nearly destroyed him. For years, he had believed he did not deserve another chance. But maybe that was wrong. Maybe the universe did not give second chances because you deserved them. Maybe it gave them because life was short and precious and not meant to be spent alone. I will stay, he said. Cheered and hugged him. let out a breath she seemed to have been holding for days. She moved closer and put her hand on his cheek. "Thank you," she whispered. "For what?" "For choosing us." 3 months later stood at the controls of a small trading vessel. It was not much, bought with compensation from the station authorities, but it was his, theirs. Sat in the co-pilot seat, learning the controls with the focused attention of a child who had found her calling. She asked questions constantly, about stars and planets and navigation and human history, and why music was so strange. Sat at the navigation station, updating their route for the next trade run. She had taken to space travel surprisingly well for someone who had spent her life in luxury. She complained about the small quarters and the recycled air, but caught her smiling when she thought no one was looking. They were an unlikely family, a human, a fallen noble, and a child who had seen too much darkness for her age. They should not have worked together. But they did. Asked one evening what made humans so different from other species. She had been reading about Earth, fascinated by its oceans and storms and the creatures that lived there. "You are small," she said. "Not as strong as, not as fast as, not as smart as the council species. How did you survive? How did you become space travelers?" Thought about the question. "We never gave up," he said finally. "When things got hard, we kept going. When we failed, we tried again. When everyone said something was impossible, we did it anyway." Is there a word for that? Smiled, many words, persistence, determination, stubbornness. He paused. But I think the best word is hope. Looked up from her charts. Hope. Yes, believing that tomorrow can be better than today, even when today is terrible. Believing that you can change things, even when the universe says you cannot. He reached over and took his hand. Believing that broken things can be healed, that lost things can be found, that endings can become beginnings. Considered this. I like hope, she decided. It is a good word. The best word, agreed. Outside the viewport, stars stretched into infinity. Somewhere out there, dangers waited, challenges they could not predict, pain they could not avoid. But they would face it together. Looked at who was watching him with those silver-marked eyes. He looked at who was already back at her controls, plotting courses to stars she had never seen. This was his family now, not the one he had lost, but the one he had found, the one he had bled for and fought for and nearly died for. And he would do it all again, without hesitation. Because that was what humans did. They endured, they hoped, they loved. And they never, ever gave up.